Howdy everyone, this is Tricia and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be cooking and I am making some pollo con calabacita and salsa verde. This is some chicken with squash in a green salsa. So let's get to cooking. I'm going to start off with a nice size of Mexican squash, chatatuma squash, or you can use a zucchini if you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and chop this up. Alright, so that squash has yielded about 4 cups of this size dice, so it depends on how much you want to make. Alright, so here I have a yellow onion. It's about a medium size. I'm going to go ahead and chop up about 3/4 and leave 1/4 intact. Alright, so this is about 1.5 cups of chopped or diced onions. That just depends on how much you want to chop yours up. And here's my 1/4 onion over here that I've reserved to the side. Alright, so here I have some minced garlic, and I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon. So depending on the size of your garlic cloves, if you want to mince your own, you're probably going to maybe do about 4 nice sized cloves of garlic. And here I've got a little bunch of cilantro, just like that. Don't need to chop it or anything. And here I've got 7 tomatillos. It doesn't have to be exactly 7, it could be 6, it could be 8. But I am going to be removing these husks off of every one of them. And then I'm going to rinse them really well. Make sure you remove that little stem piece as well. You're going to want to rinse these really well so that you get rid of that kind of stickiness off of them, and then they'll be ready. Okay, so now I'm going to take a pot with some water and I'm going to drop in my tomatillos into the water, and I'm going to put them on the stove so that the water gets really hot and starts boiling. And as you can see, these tomatillos have a nice bright green color, and they will get dull. They will get a kind of a brownish green, almost like an old avocado green. So we're going to put these in there and we're going to watch them. As soon as they turn that kind of brownish, yellowish green, we're going to go ahead and pull them out. Now for my chicken, I've chosen to use chicken thighs. These are boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I've got 5 of them here. This is about, I think it was over 1.5 pounds, so I think it said 1.68 pounds, so you could use a couple of pounds if that's what you want to use. And of course, use whatever cut of chicken you want. If you rather use drumsticks, or if you rather use chicken breast, and of course you can use the bone and even the skin if you want to leave that on. Now, I've trimmed off a little bit of fat off of these other ones, so all I'm going to do is just trim a little bit off. I don't want to take it all off. I do want some flavor on there, so that is up to you if you want to trim it off. Alright, so next we want to season all our chicken thighs, and I am using salt, ground black pepper, garlic powder, and ground cumin, and you'll just use whatever amount you want to use just for taste. So I've done one side, I'm going to turn them around and do the other side. And I did each of them individually on there. I just poured them here just to show you what I use, but you could always pour all your seasonings in here, mix it all up, and then use that to sprinkle on top. Okay, so there's our tomatoes. You can see that they've turned from a bright green to kind of a brownish green. We're going to go ahead and turn that off and pull them out. Alright, so I've emptied out the tomatillos and the onion into my blender pitcher here, and I'm going to add a little bit of the water, maybe about 1/4 cup of the water from the boil right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the tablespoon of minced garlic. Another thing you can add into this is a serrano pepper, or if you want to use 2 serrano peppers, depending on how hot you want your sauce to be. You could also add jalapenos instead. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be serving this to my mom, and I don't need it to be spicy for her. So what I'll do is, once I'm going to serve it for myself and my husband, I'm going to add some of these chopped green chilies. It's just serrano peppers that are already chopped in a little can here, nice and convenient. So I can always add that to our meals for an added heat. Alright, so once it's all blended to the consistency that you like, and I like it really liquidy, I'm going to go ahead and add the bunch of cilantro in there, and then of course you want to give it a taste and add salt. And there is the salsa ready, and I'm setting it aside. Now, I like to add the cilantro afterwards because I don't want to blend it in too much. I like to see the little chunks of cilantro in there, but if you want to blend it up completely, just add it in when you're first adding everything else. Alright, so here I have my pan, and it's nice and hot, and I've added some olive oil in there. It's about a couple of tablespoons. Use whatever oil you like. We're going to go ahead and start placing these thighs into the hot oil. We're gonna let these cook about 4 minutes on each side. All right, so 4 minutes later, we're gonna turn them over. Now, I started my pan at high because I wanted to get it nice and hot and get that oil hot, but I've gone ahead and I've lowered it to a medium heat now while they're cooking. And the chicken is really gonna depend on if you have it on bone or if you have skin on there. So you wanna make sure you check it and make sure that it is cooking. So keep it there as long as you need it, okay? I've gone ahead and covered my pan just to make sure I trap all that heat and help that chicken to cook. All right, so I'm checking my chicken and I've cut this little piece apart because it is the biggest thigh piece. So you wanna use a knife to cut into it, especially if you have some bone in there. You wanna check if you don't have any more pink spots. I do on this one and I did on the other. So I'm gonna just turn them back around and then I'm gonna cook them a little bit longer. I'm gonna put the lid on there and I'm probably gonna do another 3 minutes. All right, so a total of 12 minutes and my chicken is cooked to satisfaction. It is gonna cook a little bit longer in the pan, but for now I'm going to be pulling it out and just setting it aside. All right, so in this same sizzling hot pan with all that yummy chicken flavors there on the bottom, I'm gonna throw in our chopped or diced onions, or if you decided to slice them up, that is up to you. We're gonna put them in there. We're gonna stir them up real nice to pick up all that yumminess at the bottom of the pan. Anything that needs to be scraped off, just do that to get all that flavor. And we're gonna cook these just so they're a little translucent. And it might take three minutes or so, depends on how translucent you want them. And 3 minutes later, maybe a little bit longer, the onions are now browned and translucent, and they're brown because of the chicken that was in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the calabazita or squash, and I'm just going to saute it around a little bit just so all those flavors will get into it. And you know what, I have a little bit of the seasonings that I combined for the chicken, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw those in and then just combine that all really well. You don't have to do that. You guys, another alternative, if you don't want to use the tomatillos, you could use Roma tomatoes and make a red salsa. And if you don't want to use comino, like I did, which will give it a sort of a Mexican flavor, you can use some Italian seasoning and use your zucchini squash. So then you'll have a Italian-inspired meal or Italian-flavored. How's that? Okay, we're going to saute this just for a minute or so. All right, so while that's sauteing, I'm going to go ahead and I've measured here a cup of chicken broth. Now, if you don't have chicken broth, you can use that water that was used to boil the tomatoes in. Now, when I said you can use Roma tomatoes instead of tomatillos, you're going to boil them as well. Put them in the blender just like I did the tomatillos. Follow the same instructions. Okay, so we're going to use this boiled water. Now, if you've thrown it out, get yourself some more water, about a cup, like I said, and then you can use about half a tablespoon to a tablespoon if you want a lot of flavor, but be careful because this does have a lot of salt. We're going to be using this caldo con sabor de pollo, which is a chicken flavor bouillon, and just be careful. And we're going to add, but you want to make sure that it is hot. So this is cold because it's been in the fridge. So I'm going to warm it up in the microwave. I don't want to put cold liquid into my pan because it's going to cool everything off, and that's going to defeat the whole purpose of cooking everything in a timely manner. So make sure you make it either warm or hot. Okay, so this is sauteed maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes now, but that's okay. All right, this is now at a medium to high heat. I've turned up the heat, and I'm going to go ahead and pour in that chicken broth. And again, this is a cup, but you may need to add more. And again, if you don't have that, use the water with the chicken bouillon or flavor it however you like. But make sure you add some flavors if you're just adding plain water. Okay, we're going to add that in, and now we're going to add the green sauce. And stir that around. Get it all to mix really well. We're going to get it to start boiling up a little bit, just simmering there. All right, so now we can add the chicken into our pan. Okay, now my liquid is covering pretty much all of my little calabazita. You want to make sure that, the squash, I was going to say cabbage. You want to make sure all that squash is covered with some water. And if it's not, add a little bit more, just enough. Otherwise, this is perfect. It's okay if some of them stick out a little bit. It is fine. We're going to cover this up This is already simmering. As you can see, it's already boiling. So we're gonna cover this up and we're gonna put the heat on low. We're gonna cook it for about 20 minutes. We want that calabacita to get nice and tender. Once it is nice and tender, this should be ready. All right, so at the 20-minute mark, this is what it's looking like. The calabacita, or the squash, I keep wanting to say cabbage. The squash needs a little more time, you guys, so I'm gonna go another 5 minutes. So we're gonna cover that up and let it cook a little longer. And there it is, 25 minutes later. It is now cooked and yummy looking. It is ready to be served and enjoyed. Now you can top this off with some sour cream. You can add some queso fresco on top or sprinkle some Parmesan if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, enjoy it just as it is. All I'm gonna do is add a little bit of green chilies, some diced chilies, and have some corn tortillas, and I'm totally going to enjoy this. So I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up and leave a kind comment below and let me know what you think of my recipe for this pollo con calabacita and salsa verde. It is chicken with squash and a green sauce. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel by hitting that red subscribe button below and then choose all in notifications so that you get notified as soon as I upload a video. Thank you again all for watching, and as always, enjoy.